Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Texas Congressman Al Green is again pushing to impeach President Trump, this time for launching strikes on Iranian nuclear sites without Congress.
Impeaching Donald J. Trump, President of the United States.
Green, a black Democrat, says Trump abused his power and ignored the Constitution's separation of powers. A grassroots boycott of McDonald's starts today over its rollback of diversity efforts. Led by the People's Union USA, the group is calling out companies backing away from DEI. McDonald's says only its language changed, not its programs. Many firms have scaled back DEI since Trump made it a target. And Doug Emhoff, husband of former Vice President Kamala Harris, will teach at USC Gold School of Law as a distinguished visiting professor starting July 1st. He earned his law degree there in 1990 and previously taught at Georgetown. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
Good evening, everybody. This is Cary Grant. This is the Arnie and Cary Let's Elevate show. Arnie is doing a little international travel right now, taking care of all the world events and doing the things that he loves to do with his family. And tonight we have a guest who's going to be with us for a while Arnie's out of the country. And I want to introduce one of the great New Orleans, one of our great area leaders, Walt Leger. Glad to have you as a co-host for these few nights where we're going to have some fun without Arnie in the studio.
well, Cary, I'm very honored to be here. And just to set the record straight, I'm the old Walt Leger.
Okay.
And I'm Walt Leger Jr., not to be mistaken by my not as good-looking younger son, Walt Leger III.
Yes. I know your son from your grandkids. And my kids went to school together and that type of thing. So, yeah, I know him. And, yeah, I'd rather have you on the show.
Right. Well, thank you. I think you'd actually probably have a better co-host with him rather than an old-timer like me.
We may have to get him in here to do a comparison.
There you go. And you know, actually, he'd probably be a good guest at some point, talk about the tourism industry and things they're doing.
Because
they're doing some tremendous
great stuff. Yeah. Great stuff. I just want you to give a little bio. You've had a great career and great life, and you've been involved in so many things and still are involved in so many things. I want you just to give, for some of the audience who may not know you that well, just
well, thank you, and I am honored to be here with you. And yes. I don't think I can quite fill the shoes of Arnie Philco, because Arnie is certainly
a great guy,
a great citizen, a great guy, a great friend. And I met Arnie. Actually, I got to know Arnie a little bit when we were involved with the New Orleans Zephyrs, bringing the Zephyrs here to New Orleans. Arnie was the president of the, I guess it was the American Association or the Southern Association.
Yes, Southern Association.
The Southern Association. And he had been sued, and the Southern Association, along with the owners of the Denver Zephyrs who came here when the Colorado Rockies came here, and along with us, and Rob Kuig, my dear friend and an attorney, representing them in a lawsuit filed by no other than Tom Benson, because Tom wanted to bring a AA team here to New Orleans. The Zephyrs were a AAA team, and it trumped. But Arnie was involved in that. Eventually, Tom got to know the guy he sued, Arnie Philco, and what a great guy he was. Yeah. So he brought Arnie aboard with the Saints. Yeah. When Arnie came, I guess there's a little bit of a segue into my background. I was the chairman of the New Orleans Regional Chamber of Commerce, which covered New Orleans, St. Bernard, East New Orleans Council, the West Bank of Jefferson, East Bank, the river parishes, and most of the region that's now Metrovision. And when I heard of Arnie being hired by the Saints, I called Arnie and introduced myself, or reintroduced myself, and invited him to be on the chamber board. And we got to be very good friends working together there. And he became a tremendous asset, I think, to the New Orleans Saints and a really good friend. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, as far as me, I'm just a guy, old country lawyer who's been around for a long time. Yeah. I feel like I've been around since before electricity was invented. I tell people we took notes in law school on stone tablets when I was there, and we read by candlelight. But I attended Chalmette High School, grew up in St. Bernard Parish, went on to LSU, and got an undergraduate degree in political science and economics there. Went to Tulane Law School. My grandfather had been a ship captain. Had been a captain, a troop transport captain and D-Day in World War II, and then became a merchant ship captain after the war, where they took those very Liberty ships and Victory ships and converted them into merchant ships. And my dad had entered the Merchant Marine also. They were both in the Navy Reserve. My dad eventually worked himself up to being a master mariner as well. And I became interested in being a maritime lawyer. So I ended up at Tulane Law School, which some people say is the top maritime law school in the world.
And that's a very different type of legal field anyway. I mean, that's very specialized, very, very different.
It's very specialized. There's a lot of lawyers that say they're maritime lawyers, but they're really not. But the maritime law in the personal injury field, a lot of lawyers do that. But New Orleans in particular is probably one of the most prolific courts in the world for maritime law, because we have the Mississippi River and the barge traffic on the Mississippi River and the blue water merchant ships, some of the very largest. We also have had back then particularly the offshore oil industry and the inshore oil industry, all which intersected and had created a tremendous environment for maritime law. So the law is more than just people getting hurt or injured, but collisions, cargo claims, cargo damage claims, and a whole bunch of other things. And it's just some tremendous professors, great lawyers, some of the top maritime law firms in the country, maybe the world, here in New Orleans.
And I think that's something that people don't realize about New Orleans, that this is a real focus that's here as well, and has been for years.
Well, it has been for me in my life, but New Orleans itself, in the context of the maritime industry, I mean, that's why New Orleans is here.
The port,
and because it was determined that, it's right here on the Mississippi River, and there had been exploration up and down the river. Bienville and his brother Iberville came over here in the 1690s, and they determined, in those days when ships didn't have engines, they would generally sail into Lake Pontchartrain through the Wrigley's, come down Bayou St. John, where I live now, and then get right back to here, and they could portage or carry things across to the river and bring things out to the Gulf of Mexico, pick up barges from down, all the way up to Minnesota on the Mississippi River. But eventually, they established the city of New Orleans because of its port and maritime and marine and shipping location, which was one of the, made us one of the major cities in the world
at that
in
time.
The early days,
and
certainly in the United States. For all of that. But so that became my concentration. I became a maritime lawyer. Went to work with one of the biggest and most out of law school. Went to work with a big law firm, the Phelps Dunbar law firm, in New Orleans. And I was kind of a unique hire. I'd gone to public school, and they were all really, very expensive private school men and women, but had a great experience there, tremendous experience. Left there, formed my own law firm, and with a friend of mine from law school, and we practiced for a long time, principally initially maritime law. Our practice evolved into, we had been involved, probably still, I would say, have been involved in most of the major maritime collisions, incidents, disasters, catastrophes
that have happened
in our career, including I was on the trial team in the BP case. We tried that case for 3 months. But so our practice evolved into what you call mass tort or complex litigation. I became involved in the tobacco litigation, representing the Attorney General of Louisiana, Richard Ayoub. And eventually our group, the Castano group, including Wendell Gauthier, one of the great lawyers that I've had great fortune in my career to be around some of the great lawyers of our time. Wendell Gauthier, Russ Herman, Ryan Motley from South Carolina. I even did a little work in Beauport, Paul, India case with F. Lee Bailey.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So, yeah, I was a very young lawyer. So I've been around some really good lawyers.
Yes.
And even a guy that's not real smart like me can pick up a few tricks from those old lawyers.
That's very self-deprecating. I mean, you're a very, very brilliant man, and very well respected. I appreciate all that you've done. I just want to say that sometimes we forget about the people who fought for people who are kind of behind the scenes, sometimes in front of the scenes, but you've put a lot of work into the communities around you, around these parishes, and been very helpful.
Well, thank
for
you.
a lot of people who may not remember or may not even know that.
Well, and that's okay.
Yeah,
as you know, Cary, you've done your share too.
Yeah,
you don't do it for the recognition.
No, not at all.
Sometimes we get more recognition than we deserve. Sometimes, I feel like I got more than I should have gotten, while other people didn't get the recognition they did. And you and I talked about this before we went on the air.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping as we remember Katrina, and Rita over the next several months, we can remember some of the people who aren't around anymore, who contributed so much to the rebuilding of not just New Orleans and St. Bernard, but also we had Hurricane Rita over in Calcasieu Parish, Lake Charles area, but who are responsible for the rebuilding of South Louisiana.
And also made strides and made federal government, state government, and other things more powerful and more strong in the ability to deal with disasters. And those stories, like you said, are getting lost because this has been 20 years, and some people who are grown up in this community never knew these people existed.
Have no idea.
Right.
The sacrifice, the work, the effort. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a young man back then.
There's a few gray hairs ago.
Certainly 20 years older. But I have very vivid memories of really good people that didn't intend to get involved, but jumped right in and helped rebuild New Orleans.
And that's one thing I have to say about our area, and you know this well too. There are so many people in our area. Maybe it's like this in other places, but I think because we're all related by blood or marriage or whatever, there's so many people who step up, who just, they would literally feed you out the back door of their house just because that's what they could do. But you know what I'm talking about. There were so many people who gave everything, gave shelter to us, gave food, water, whatever, the basics of life and other things that we never will talk about.
Cary, you know this. A lot of people evacuated when Katrina was coming. A lot did not.
Yes.
And the stories that I've heard people tell, that I've witnessed and seen, of rescues that people made of their neighbors and otherwise. And of course the first responders, were very important, but just regular people and neighbors saving people, saving people's animals, trying to protect their people's property in the immediate aftermath.
Right.
But then when you start looking at when we started rebuilding, when it was really hard, to go back into your home and see how horribly damaged it was, but to just plug on and then to rebuild our communities, rebuild our institutions, and then people, honestly, from other parts of the country that came in and helped us too.
Yeah, there were a lot of great organizations and people who came just to help, and that all has to be remembered. I think you and I are on that same page.
Absolutely.
Let's not keep this at a high level of commemoration. Let's make sure everybody knows.
Since you and I may do this tonight once or twice more before Arnie comes back, we need to remember to make sure we dedicate at least one show to some of those people and talk about what they did in the rebuilding.
Absolutely.
But so I've been very fortunate to be involved in a lot of things. Governor Blanco invited me, and because of my involvement in some of the things you're talking about, Chamber of Commerce, economic development, I was one of the founding directors of GNO Inc. and been very involved in those things too, just as a matter of kind of giving back. But I do want to mention, you asked me to mention something. One of the important things in my life today is I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the Louisiana Cancer Research Center, which involves both LSU and Tulane, which both my alma maters, and Oxnard and Xavier. In trying to develop, knowing that we have such a high incidence of cancer here in Louisiana, and that we've been particularly maybe I think the fourth highest death rate from cancer, but we're improving. That we're making particular efforts in that regard. And so some of those things are very important to me.
Yeah.
And I think to a lot of people here in this community. We have great doctors, great institutions, and I'm a 3-time cancer survivor myself.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And so I'm thankful and very fortunate, and just want to give back. But no, I've been fortunate, Cary. Been around. When you've been around as long as I have, you get to do a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get to know some really good people like yourself, like Arnie.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I just want to segue into something else, because we're going to do a little bit of good news and we'll go into this in the second segment as well for a little while. But we've had some great news here in the local area over the weekend. Our LSU Tigers baseball team, you're an alum. My wife's an alum. We all bleed that purple.
Absolutely.
People have to admit that. I mean, I hate LSU, but you really don't. But the LSU baseball team did a phenomenal job in this World Series. A bunch of really gritty guys, a great team, great coach. This guy is one of the best coaches in all of sports, to be honest with you. And I'm sure he'll be getting some contract extension or something pretty soon. But he's taken a team, really literally rebuilt the team from a championship team over a 2-year span and went right back and did it again. Just your thoughts on what's going on with that.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm an LSU alum.
Absolutely.
The mother of my children graduated from LSU with me. Yeah. All 3 of my children, my son Walt, my son Rhett, my daughter Elizabeth, are LSU graduates. Their spouses, Jeff,
wow.
My son-in-law,
you
and
have
Dana
a deep
and
connection.
Danielle, all LSU people. They weren't allowed to date anybody that wasn't an LSU, or maybe Tulane a little bit. But so we're really LSU people, and we're baseball people too. Something I didn't mention.
Yes.
I was one of the I was the original announcer for the New Orleans Zephyrs when they came to New Orleans in 1993.
Wow. Now that I didn't.
That was a weird thing that happened. My friend Gary Forster was supposed to announce. He got stuck in the legislature, and we had been drinking martinis one day. I said, "Oh man, I've announced games. I announced a game on the playground for my kids."
Right.
And he called me and said, "You got to cover for me." So I became the announcer.
Yeah.
1995, Rob Kuig put together a group. My dear friend Rob, and we bought the team in 1995.
Yeah.
So we, became very heavily involved in AAA baseball. Won the World Series in 1998.
Yeah.
AAA baseball championship, another championship in 2001. But one of my dreams, as we became owners of the Zephyrs, was to put together an LSU Tulane game at Zephyr Field.
Right.
When neither teams had stadiums that they have today.
Yeah.
We could put 11, 12,000 people in there. We did. And we had regular game. And then eventually there was a super regional hosted by Tulane, which I'm not going to say how I felt about Tulane beating LSU in the super regional.
And that's a great time to take a break. We'll be right back in a moment.
Get in on the conversation at 504-582-9422.
I'm David Patan Sr., owner of Whole Water and Food Over Medicine Academy, coach, consultant, and instructor. We're excited about our 21-day challenge. Stop, prevent, and reverse disease today. Cholesterol, diabetes type 2, high blood pressure, along with chronic illnesses and diseases. We believe that the gift of wellness is the greatest gift, and for $30 per month, $1 a day, you could have this gift for you and your family.
I'm Phyllis Washington, and I've benefited with health and weight loss. For
your gift of $30, healing and wellness can be yours. Call 504-701-4711. That's 504-701-4711. The Whole Water Store. See you at 2135 Washington Avenue today.
Hi, I'm Leo Jackson, host of Sunday Gospel here every Sunday morning, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. You don't want to miss this move of God. It happens only on WBOK. You listen to all day long.
Real issues, real talk. Real solutions. Miss an episode of The Reality Check? You can catch every episode anytime. Search WBOK Media on your favorite podcast app to tap the bold commentary, real-time reactions, and powerful perspectives from the people and leaders shaping our city. Download, share, and rate it 5 stars because the real ones always stay informed.
Hey, WBOK, Ryan Richardson coming at you. Join me this Saturday live, June 28th from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. as I welcome President of Heartbeat NOLA, Maurice Trosclair. Join us as he talks about his experience with sudden cardiac arrest and how he survived right here on WBOK 1230 AM, streaming worldwide on WBOK1230.com. Please tune in and thanks for your support.
WBOK online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
And we are back. This is Cary Grant. I'm here with Walt Leger, one of the great New Orleanians and great guys of our area. I mean, I'm saying New Orleanian because we're stealing whatever background he has for us tonight and for the rest of the time. He's going to be doing some co-hosting with me during Arnie's absence, and I think this is great. We're talking about LSU baseball right now. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball in the area and some of the other things, but a little bit more about LSU baseball. And what's
let
going
me tell you about our involvement in when I was at LSU, before electricity was invented. It was purely a football school.
Yeah,
I was a freshman when Pete Maravich was a senior.
Right.
So suddenly people started paying attention to basketball.
Right.
But before then, people at LSU, we didn't even have a basketball stadium. They played basketball, and some of the older people remember the agriculture center,
right.
The ag center.
Yeah.
And then they built Pete's Palace.
Yeah.
Because of Pete Maravich.
Yeah.
But baseball was not even something I was aware of. Never went to a baseball game.
Wow.
I had a friend that played on the team, but I never really gave a second thought to it. I went to Chalmette High School. My senior year, our team played Holy Cross in the state championship in baseball. So baseball was kind of something we paid attention to. I wasn't a baseball player.
Right.
We lost by 1 run, by the way, to Holy Cross. Still don't like that. Still can't get over it. Yeah. When Skip Bertman was brought to LSU, Skip had been in Miami. And what Skip did, interestingly, was we could kind of see it from the distance. He started promoting baseball like a minor league baseball team even more than before he started winning.
Okay.
He started doing all kind of the things that we did in minor leagues, promotions,
getting
people on the field, doing spinning bat things, and all kind of different type of getting people in the stands
to build the audience.
And then he started recruiting some players, and then suddenly he apparently started winning games. And it was an old Alex Box Stadium, which was, it had a name, but it didn't
nothing
have
like the one today.
Nothing like the stadium today. And then suddenly Skip, started winning baseball games. And by the way, even then, the Southeastern Conference was, baseball just wasn't a big deal.
Right.
It was Skip Bertman and LSU that put the Southeastern Conference
absolutely
on the map. Kind of like, in basketball, before Pete Maravich, there was only Kentucky.
Yeah,
exactly. Then Maravich, people started like, wow.
Yeah, people didn't even know there were any other teams
right.
in the SEC.
But Skip did this. Yeah. And I will say one of the great I couldn't have had more fun, and I thank my friend Rob Coog for getting me involved in the Zephyrs. I eventually became president of the team for several years, and I was with the team the whole time I was here, until they even became that other name that I don't like to say.
We're not going to talk about
the new owners. So I was here from the start, till the end. But one of the great things that happened besides winning the World Series was getting to know Skip Bertman.
Yeah.
When we put together the LSU and Tulane games, we even had exhibition games against the LSU.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you an example. We had an exhibition game in Round Rock, Texas, against our AA team. The Zephyrs did, and then we were flying on Southwest Airlines from Round Rock back to New Orleans. They have an exhibition game with LSU.
Oh, okay.
Which was, I wasn't really excited about it as an LSU guy, but again. As an LSU and Tulane guy, that really was what I wanted to do, put those games together. And Rob, was a big Tulane law grad and an LSU fan also. But so we're flying back on Southwest Airlines, and I'm sitting in the seat with Jim Hickey, who was our pitching coach and a former major league pitcher. And I'm looking around, and the team looked kind of like they were really bored and everything. I said, "Hey, Jim, the team's going to get fired up to play LSU." Huh? He said, "Walter, it's a college team we're playing." I said, "Whoa. This is LSU." I said, "Look, I'm an LSU guy." I said, "But we can't lose to LSU, right? We can't lose to a college team." He said, I said, "Look, what's the chances?" He said, "Well, if you play them 10 times, we're going to beat them 7 out of 10. I said, "Whoa. You mean they might beat us 3 out of 10 times?" I said, no. We cannot have that.
Right.
A AAA team. And by the way, they were required to use wooden bats, which was a because professional baseball wouldn't allow aluminum bats. Yeah. But so there was a guy sitting across the aisle from me. He had played in the World Series for USC against LSU. Mm-hmm. And he was our third baseman. And I wish I could remember his name. But he looked over and he said, "Hey, Jim," he said, "this is not just a college team. This is LSU, man. I played against them. This team can beat us." He said, and he literally stood up in the aisle of the plane and started firing the team up. Wow. I'm thinking, oh, thank God. Well, we did beat them.
There you go.
But nonetheless, but that was LSU.
Yeah.
You know, that's the tradition that Skip Skip Bertman built.
Yeah, and after 8 wins, eight championships now, and this is just incredible what they've done. It's in their DNA. It really is. It just seems like
8 championships with 3 different coaches.
Yeah,
and this one coach winning 2, and a class act, a bunch of class ball players.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a caller. Let me get to this caller. Hello, Don.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
good evening to you and the guest, Mr. Trahan.
Mr. Leger. This is Walt Leger.
Leger. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Thank you for the history. But I had a question and a comment. Well, the first black player in the SEC. You're talking about baseball. Congratulations to LSU winning another College World Series baseball championship. But the first black player in the SEC was a young man from New Orleans. He's from the West Bank. He went to St. Augustine High School. Stephen Martin, when Tulane was in the SEC, one of the founding members of the SEC, and he played. Started in 1965. Even though he was better in football, he played baseball. What do you have any recollections of that time when Stephen Martin from I believe from from Marrero.
Is it Don?
Broke
is that
the
your
color
name?
barrier in 1965. Of course, many say it was the football players, Gabe Northington from Kentucky and Gray David, who was got his neck broken in practice. But it was actually Stephen Martin who broke was first black athlete in the Southeastern Conference.
Don, I wish I could tell you I remember. I'm an old guy, but in 1965, I wasn't thinking about anything but girls. And I certainly, unfortunately, I wasn't thinking about baseball, but I was kind of a Tulane. Tulane had a great baseball program back then with Brockhoff at that time, too. Now, I don't remember, but you know what I am going to do? I'm going to look it up. I'm going to research
definitely
it.
Look that up.
That's a fantastic thing to know.
And they think Tulane is like a afterthought, but Tulane was a charter member of the Southeastern Conference.
Yes, they were. Yeah. I was really disappointed when they left.
Conference because of the lack of progress on racial relations as it was presented with people like Stephen Martin, who pushed the athletic department forward and what we have today.
Yeah, that's great information. We're going to definitely look that up. Thank you for calling.
No, back in those days, Tulane was really an exceptional program. But when LSU wasn't, nobody even knew about an LSU baseball program. Tulane was playing some good baseball back then. Ray Brockhoff.
People don't realize that Tulane, if you go back even further into the 30s, Tulane was a football power at one point. I mean, just a national title winner. But, I mean, in over the years, Tulane has done fantastic job of keeping their Division I level going. I mean, basketball, football now. I mean, they go back and forth, but they've kept a steady stream of good athletes, and
they have, and it's tough with the high academic standards.
Absolutely.
But my dad was a Tulane fan, so when I was a little boy, I was the oldest of three children, and we'd go to Tulane games. And my dad was really disappointed when I decided to go to LSU undergrad, but he recognized me again when I went to Tulane Law School.
There you go. So let's elaborate a little bit on the minor league baseball thing.
Yes.
We talked about that on the show before here, and I wanted to get your thoughts on, are we going to ever see that again in New Orleans? Is that something Major League Baseball is looking at, or what's going on with that?
Well, let me tell you, as you know, we sold our interest, our group sold our interest in the early 2000s. Actually, we sold to one of our partners, to Don Beaver, right before Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And Don was the first one. There was never any question when the Saints and the Hornets were going away. He was opening up, although we had damage at Zephyr Field. Don owned about 5 minor league teams. He still owns the Charlotte Knights, which is one of the most successful AAA baseball teams in the country. And he started off with Hickory, North Carolina Crawdads as a single A team.
Yeah.
But so I stayed on with Don after we sold the group as general counsel. And when the new buyers, the new owners, Lou Schweckheimer and that crowd came on, I stayed on as a vice president and general counsel with them. And then I was the only vote against changing the name to that ridiculous new name, which I will not say.
Don't ever say that.
You know, but so when they were offered a tremendous deal to move to Wichita, and Wichita built them an $85 million Taj Mahal of a stadium.
Really?
But they were opening. They were going to open when COVID started.
Got it.
But now, right about that time, Major League Baseball and minor league baseball was involved in a renegotiation of a 98-year player development contract between the two.
Oh, okay.
We had formed, actually, a minor league baseball caucus in Congress,
wow.
which was led by Steve Scalise and the great Cedric Richmond.
There you go.
Great Morehouse
Court
pitcher and Democratic pitcher
yeah.
in the congressional games. And we were making progress in our negotiations. At that time, I guess I can, I guess I can talk about it now. The president of minor league baseball, who I'd gotten to know when we owned the team, was calling me every week because we had a group that wanted to buy and bring a team here.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of suitors that were interested in selling the franchise, and he kept calling me. So we got a team for you. We're bringing a AA team to New Orleans.
Okay.
And then COVID hit. And what happened was, I believe that took any leverage minor league baseball had out of the negotiations with Major League Baseball.
Good.
Because the major leagues, they could continue playing with COVID shutting the stadium down because of the TV contract.
TV contract kept them going.
The minor league teams, you got to put butts in the seats.
Yeah.
And totally shut down the seasons. Nobody played.
Oh, really?
I mean, you had a brand new stadium in Wichita with this
with nobody
team that nobody could play in. Couldn't play a game there.
Wow.
So what resulted was a new contract, a historic contract between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball, where there had been 160 minor league teams with 30 major league teams, and they just literally shut down 40 teams.
Wow.
Among the teams that they shut down was a team that minor league baseball was going to send here.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there continues to be talk of an expansion of Major League Baseball of 2 more teams, which would need 4 more minor league teams. Yeah. And the way it works is 1 AAA team, which is the highest level, a AA team, and then 2 single A teams, lower level teams.
Yeah.
And so what that would mean is 8 more minor league baseball if they expand.
If they did that.
If they don't expand, I don't see much chance. But I will tell you, though, in the last year, there has been discussions of a couple of people bringing an independent league team here. You've heard of the Savannah Bananas?
Yes, absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the level of ball, that the minor leagues, the development leagues for Major League Baseball would be, but it would be a place for real, exceptional high school and college baseball players to play. There had been talk at one time. Now Zephyr Field is over there, and I get a stomach cramp every time I pass by and it's empty.
Yeah.
And I know it's not totally empty because they're playing rugby there.
Rugby, yeah.
But rugby only has like 10 home games a year. We had 72 home games.
Yeah.
If we put 2,000 people in a stadium, it was a bad night.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're putting in there, but there's talk of turning that stadium into a soccer stadium or a high school football stadium or otherwise. I'd hate to see it happen, but are we going to bring baseball there again? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the chances are remote. There's been some discussion of in the riverfront development near the convention center of putting a soccer baseball stadium in that development.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think they can put a much cheaper stadium there and bring it and bring a team there.
Way,
So you might move a team if something
it's not was built. Yeah,
but there's not the kind of movement that we thought. I haven't given up total hope, but I think it's remote.
Yeah, I understand. And I want to segue. This is a whole other segue, but I want to segue to a project that you're working on right now. And we're going to have more time to talk about this at another time as well. But I wanted to talk to you about the port project that you're working on, because this is very important, and I want people to understand clearly from literally the horse's mouth why this is important to New Orleans as well as to St. Bernard and other parishes as well.
Well, I was appointed by I'm now an old-time maritime lawyer. But I was appointed by Governor John Bell Edwards to the Board of Commissioners of the Port of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And the Board of Commissioners is made up of 4 seats from New Orleans, 2 from Jefferson, 1 from St. Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
And the port has had for over 100 years port jurisdiction by statute over those 3 parishes.
Okay.
On the Mississippi River, there are 5 other deepwater ports that do international trade.
Mm-hmm.
There's the port of Baton Rouge, port of South Louisiana, which by tonnage is one of the bigger ports, maybe the second biggest in the country in terms of its shipment of not docks that it owns, but just the tonnage of grain and those type of things on the Mississippi River. There's Port of New Orleans, which has the only container port now at Napoleon Avenue on the Mississippi River. The Port of St. Bernard, which shares international jurisdiction with the Port of New Orleans, and then the Port of Plaquemines, which is kind of a fledgling and up-and-coming port. Its port board is the parish council. They're developing an LNG, liquefied natural gas facility down there, which will move those ships in and out of there. Otherwise, tankers come from Baton Rouge. The large what we call break bulk and bulk vessels come from the Port of South Louisiana, and the Port of New Orleans services every type. Cruise ships, break bulk, and container vessels. Since I know it was originally targeted for 2014, probably 2016, I think, the expansion of the Panama Canal took place, which allowed for the movement of larger ships from the Pacific to the Atlantic, or the Atlantic to the Pacific. And I don't know if you've ever seen the locks on the Panama Canal.
Yes.
It is
it's incredible
an engineering wonder of the world.
It's incredible. It really
and now it's handling really, really, really big ships. They used to call them Panamax ships, which were the maximum size that could fit through the Panama Canal. And that was the standard by which they built ships. But they couldn't build them bigger because then you couldn't get through the Panama Canal. Now they have what they call post-Panamax and new Panamax ships now that the canal and the locks have been expanded. Well, now those larger ships, many coming from China, hitting the Gulf Coast over the years because we couldn't get the larger ships under the Mississippi River Bridge. And started going to Houston. And Houston, by the way, has a tremendous market, just Houston. It's got a market of 4, 5, 7 million people. And so that market's there. The federal government and the city of, the state of Texas spent a lot of money to dredge to 50 feet, which is the depth that the ships have to be, the Houston Ship Channel. It's also a much shorter route and a straight route. And then what really got us in the last few years is the port of Mobile. Where they have one port there. We've got 5 major ports on the Mississippi River, 1 deep water port on the Calcasieu River and Lake Charles, and about 37 other ports in the state of Louisiana. So our financial resources got spread around. In Alabama, they had one port, and they'd go to Washington, and Senator Shelby would bring $200 million a year into their port.
Bring it directly to this one spot.
Now, what happened is their container port got pretty big, while we were kind of chugging along and couldn't get the larger ships up under the bridge anyway.
Yeah.
But what else happened is, and this is what the dream is here in the development of a world-class container port down the downriver port, is in Alabama has, maybe some people have noticed, they've been able to draw in some distribution centers, a big Amazon center, automobile manufacturing facilities, and otherwise, to a large degree, motivated, created, and are synergistically related
because
to the Port of Mobile.
Right. Yeah.
And so, without our ability to, what the economists are telling us, and actually the investors are telling us, is that if we in order for us to compete, and honestly, we're just natural.
Yeah.
We have the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
And
they don't.
And everything that drains into it.
Yeah.
To compete, we've got to be able to get the big ships in.
Yeah.
And so the thought for many years has been to build a port, a container facility down below the Mississippi River. Before I got on the board, the port looked at a lot of sites in Plaquemines Parish.
Yeah.
Down below, a couple of sites, and actually contracted another site in St. Bernard Parish, which I believe was, really kind of in the middle of the population base, and the parish would have been a little tougher. The pilots did a study and determined that because of its location on the bend of the river, was a dangerous location to bring these large ships in.
Yeah.
This property in Violet is about 1,100 acres, and about 100 acres on the river itself already had been used by the St. Bernard Port as a dock.
Okay.
But not for not a heavy working dock.
Yeah.
But St. Bernard Port was involved in some litigation over an eminent domain and expropriation of that property, and they offered to sell it to the Port of New Orleans, which is contiguous with another 1,100 acres that goes all the way back to, I think New Orleans people may understand, the 40 Arpent Canal.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the border to the east.
Right.
And the marsh.
Right.
Which kind of sets off the development.
Right.
So the Port of New Orleans.
Yeah. We're going to take a break right here, Walt. We'll get right back to that story.
WBOK online at WBOK1230.com.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
On the next edition of The Way Forward, Mildred the Money Dr. Dillon will pay us a visit to discuss managing our finances in tight times. Plus, I'll share the What's Good News, the Go Forward message, and tell you about something that you need to know. Join me Saturday at 3 p.m. It's The Way Forward with Eddie Francis here on 1230 a.m. or streaming live at WBOK1230.com and the Play Old app. On WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
Missed a show? Want to hear that guest everyone's talking about? WBOK is now streaming on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search WBOK Media, hit download, share with a friend, and don't forget to rate your favorite shows 5 stars. Because when our voices are heard, our impact grows.
On Auto Trends with JeffCars.com, here's a snippet of some of what we cover. GPS pioneer Gladys West.
We worked long hours computing trajectory orbits and satellite orbits, trying to get the data and everything correct enough.
Auto analyst Mark Bland.
14 new vehicle deals that happen in this country out of every 100 that women don't have a fingerprint on.
To tune in, check out Auto Trends with JeffCars.com. Saturdays at 4 p.m. on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
New Orleans. Are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of the Arrington Gavin Show, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. Catch the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK, online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
We are back. This is Cary Grant and with my guest host, Walt Leger, and we're talking about the port that's going to be built in St. Bernard. Walt's deeply involved in that project. Go ahead, Walt.
So what we have to date is one of the largest shippers in the country, MSC, and their investment group, TIL, Mediterranean Shipping Company, has pledged $400 million to build this port.
Wow.
Ports America, which currently operates several of the docks in the Port of New Orleans, including the current container facility, has offered put up another $400 million. Wow. We went to Washington and through two separate grants have obtained over $300 million, the largest infrastructure grant for ports in the history.
Wow.
Given to this port.
That's great.
The Port of New Orleans will, by bonding, put up another maybe $500 million, and will raise money otherwise. Senator Kennedy who's against putting any money up. What do you call those things? You politicians know the little swaths of money that they stick in there.
Yeah.
He's gotten some money appropriated for the construction, and he has said this is the largest economic development project in the history of the state of Louisiana.
I believe that.
The congressional delegation is all for it. Mike Johnson, we met with him. Tetlow is on the Appropriations Committee.
Yeah.
Of course, our congressman here, Troy Carter, is a major advocate of it because of its economic development impact.
Right.
It's going to be clean environmentally.
Yeah.
It's going to be almost entirely electric,
Wow.
even the cranes.
Wow.
The IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which of the United Nations, has put a deadline of 2050 to have zero carbonization. So even the new ships, the large ships, the new post-Panamax ships that I talked about before, are developing alternative sources of fuel.
And just talk about, you just made a great point. Congressman Carter's for it because it's about economic development. And talk about what that means to Orleansburg.
It's about economic development. What we did about a month or two ago is we got specific legislative authorization by a 13-3 vote in the Transportation Committee and a 75-21 vote in the House.
Wow.
A unanimous 11 votes in the Louisiana Senate Committee on Transportation and 36 votes unanimously, no opposition in the Senate, because of the argument that this is such a big economic development project. Now, what does that mean, economic development? Well, we're going to have the projections show 600 to 1,000 jobs within the first year that we open.
Yeah.
1,500 jobs to build it. $58 million in tax revenue to St. Bernard alone, and that much more in the region.
Yeah.
And then we'll be hiring people from the region to
to
build
work
it,
there
and then to work it.
Yeah.
And then, what will it do to the housing market in St. Bernard? Be tremendous, but also in New Orleans East and the rest of New Orleans.
Because they're so close. It's the
because
proximity.
Demand for workers is going to be so great. But that may not be the greatest economic development impact. And because what has happened, and we saw it in Mobile, we've seen it in Houston, you've seen it everywhere there are these ports. What happens is the development of a value-added infrastructure, and that is warehousing, distribution centers, and New Orleans East has got the land for it.
Yeah.
What the legislature authorized with the construction of a road from the back part of the port to avoid trucks being on the roads of St. Bernard Parish through the marsh to Parish Road, and eventually what we call the Green Bridge that goes into New Orleans East and hooks up with I-10 and Almanaster Corridor.
Right, which means commerce.
And by the way, the trucking industry has agreed to pay a toll.
Oh, wow.
To help build that road.
Yeah, because it'll benefit them.
It'll benefit them financially. Yeah. And so what does that mean? We're going to be rolling these things right off into the area of New Orleans East. The city of New Orleans needs to get aggressive. St. Tammany Parish East will get aggressive, but the economic benefit to the region is tremendous. The governor is 1,000% on board. Plaquemines Parish is, suggesting they want to build a port down there. But everyone in the industry, the governor, the congressional staff, and the legislature now is 100% on board. Yeah. There is opposition among the locals in St. Bernard Parish to it. I'm not sure I firmly understand it, other than they don't understand or visualize what they think is an industrial facility.
Sure.
It's not a chemical plant. We have 2 oil refineries in St. Bernard and a sugar refinery. And other chemical, the river itself, in St. Bernard is not condominiums.
Yeah,
it's industry in St. Bernard Parish, and we believe this will provide jobs. It'll provide, we think, a boost in the sale of homes and the value of homes, and otherwise, not just St. Bernard, but into Lower 9 and into New Orleans East.
Right.
And so, and that's not Walter Leger saying this. I mean, I studied economics 100 years ago at LSU. Yeah. This is the real economists that are looking at it
currently,
and that have done projections of the impact on the state, region, and the nation. We've also got some numbers of what happens if we don't do this.
Yeah.
What jobs will we lose? What shipping industry will we lose?
Right.
Because as the ships get bigger, we either have to be able to take them, or they go to Mobile or
Houston. At all. Right.
They're not going to get to Napoleon Avenue.
Yeah.
Because they can't get under the bridge.
Yeah.
So we think this is an important thing to happen for the future. I just want to remind you, and again, for us old guys, we remember some of the things that we've lost in the past.
Sure.
Disney World wanted to come to the North Shore.
Right.
There's 2 or 3 different theories I heard of why we didn't get it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We didn't get it.
Yeah.
We certainly didn't go after it. Before they built an intercontinental airport in Houston, there was talk of building it up between New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
If that had been done, it probably would not have been in Houston. The growth has been in Houston. The growth has been in Orlando.
And some of the growth you're talking about didn't happen because things weren't there for it to happen for.
That's right.
It's not because it couldn't have happened. It's because the key linchpin wasn't there.
And because people opposed it.
Yeah.
That's why we've got to get this one done.
Well, thank you so much. Well, we're going to have you back on, and we're going to have some great co-hosting, and we're going to bring in some guests and do our thing. Really appreciate you being here. Walt Leger, everybody. And thank you and good night. We've had a great show, and we'll see you tomorrow.